To them, it meant nothing. Like my son's life meant nothing to them.
A grieving mother's fight to honor her son's life by removing the lethal chemical from Amazon's website that took it.
They knew. They took our child's life because they knew.
Happy birthday.
The King 5 investigators reveal the suffering extends to more than 24 families.
So if they had listened and stopped selling it, I believe that those 23 other people would still be alive.
This is a every night, every day of the week, every motel thing.
It's become a hotspot for car thefts and break-ins as car owners leave their vehicles behind in lots surrounding SeaTac Airport.
Back lot gets hit every other night. Yeah, it happens. It's been happening a lot.
And return to an empty parking spot. Our investigation reveals a costly crime pattern.
This is, I think, the 8th or 9th one this morning.
And how one lot is fighting back against car thieves.
How many of you believe that this law is actually killing babies?
I do.
A state law meant to keep families together may be putting children in greater danger.
The exact system that was designed to protect these children is traumatizing them further.
How the youngest in our community, babies and toddlers, are overdosing and dying from fentanyl.
These toddlers are showing up in our emergency rooms, unresponsive, needing full life support.
The King 5 investigators hear from foster moms speaking out to stop the suffering.
It's heartbreaking. It rips at your soul.
I feel they still took some of my freedom from me, leaving me in this state.
And medical treatment behind bars is harming inmates in Washington's jails.
It's illegal, it's unsafe, and we would not tolerate it if that's the care that we got when we went to our doctor's office.
The unqualified medical staff making decisions right now that's jeopardizing inmate health and safety.
I just want the right people to be accountable for what happened to me.
This is a King 5 investigators special report. First, the King 5 investigators expose Amazon missed one opportunity after another to pull a deadly chemical from its website as dozens of young people used it to end their lives. Thank you for joining us for our annual year-end King 5 investigators special. I'm Susanna Frame.
And I'm Chris Ingalls. Grieving parents begged the company to remove the product for years before Amazon did something about it.
We do want to warn you that this story discusses suicide. You're looking at the faces of young people from across the country. Young people who died in the exact same way. Each one of them bought a lethal chemical on Amazon, secretly had it delivered to their homes, then drank it with water to end their lives. Including this 16-year-old from California, Aiden Wallen, a high school student just starting his junior year who loved music, computers, and the outdoors.
That was the last time I saw my son was August 2nd. Little Aiden.
In the summer of 2020, his mom Meredith and stepdad Gustavo got a call from Aiden's dad.
He said Aiden killed himself. And I was like, what? And he said Aiden's gone, he killed himself. I got home, he's gone.
In his room, Aiden's parents found this bottle of sodium nitrite, cups he drank it from, and this in the trash, a receipt from Amazon. $21.18 for the chemical at a 99% concentration. At a much lower strength, it's used as a food preservative, but at 99%, it has no household use whatsoever. It's too lethal. Amazon was selling it to the public anyway. Aiden's mom assumed the company had no idea it was getting into the hands of young people.
And I honestly thought that maybe they didn't know.
Meredith got online to find an Amazon phone number to warn them about sodium nitrite. With no luck finding a person to call, she resorted to an online chat. In 56 exchanges, she explained her son used sodium nitrite to end his life and that it shouldn't be easily accessible to a 16-year-old child. The employee assured Meredith the company will definitely investigate. Don't worry, the product will be removed or not available after the team has taken actions. When Meredith asked for a person to follow up with, the employee responded, "We aren't allowed to share direct contact information to our customers."
And I just told you I lost my son. I lost my boy. And you won't even give me a phone number to call. Give me a person. Instead of letting me talk about my dead son over chat.
Despite her warnings, the product stayed on the site. So Meredith shot off 9 emails to higher-ups. It's been a few weeks. Every day this remains unregulated, a minor could use it to end their lives. An Amazon executive answered with, "We've opened an investigation." But nothing changed. Sodium nitrite was still for sale on Amazon to anyone. Meredith reached out yet again 1 year later and got this response. "I regret we've been unable to address your concerns to your satisfaction."
And finally on, what would have been Aiden's 18th birthday, she emailed me and said that she would no longer respond to me. And that was the last I heard from them.
We found Meredith Mitchell wasn't the first or last person to try to get Amazon to take action. Other grieving parents posted concerns years before she did. Other people wrote letters, including the FDA, attorneys, even members of Congress. But Amazon kept selling sodium nitrate for 6 years after the first red flags rolled in.
Absolutely, there was a constellation of warnings.
New York attorney Carrie Goldberg represents 24 families, all suing Amazon on behalf of their now deceased children. She says 23 of them died after Aiden Wallen, after his mom begged Amazon to get the chemical off the site.
So if they had listened to Meredith and stopped selling it, I believe that those 23 other people would still be alive. And I know that the 24 people that my firm is representing, that it's just a small tip of the iceberg.
I know that there are a number of cases involving these same issues.
In court hearings and legal papers, Amazon is aggressively defending itself, saying the company isn't to blame for the deaths, but the people who bought and misused the product.
Any emotional harm in this case was a result of the volitional act of creating suicide.
All the plaintiffs argue Amazon didn't just sell poison, but veritable suicide kits. The website's algorithm prompted sodium nitrite customers to buy additional supplies like Tagamet, a medication to keep you from throwing the chemical up, and a book called The Peaceful Pill, a step-by-step guide on how to end your life.
It pissed me off. They knew. They took our child's life because they knew.
Birthday to you.
Aiden's family says they honor his life in many ways, including celebrating every birthday. He would have turned 21 this year.
Happy birthday to you.
This child was my life, and to them it meant nothing. Like my son's life meant nothing to them.
I miss him. I miss him, and I'm afraid I'm gonna forget him. I'm afraid I'm not gonna remember him.
We asked Amazon why they continued to sell sodium nitrite for years after they were made aware it had no household use and was being used for suicides, but they didn't answer us. In June, Amazon lost its bid to get a lawsuit brought by another victim's family thrown out of court. A King County Superior Court judge ruled the case will move forward. Amazon has appealed that decision. Air travel can be stressful, but it's gotten worse for hundreds of people who park their cars near SeaTac Airport.
In this King 5 investigation, I reveal the car theft hotspots you should know about before you fly.
All around SeaTac Airport, there are businesses that serve people on the go. Park and fly lots and stay and fly deals at hotels offer parking prices lower than the nearly $40 a day charged at the airport's garage.
Hi there, are you Carol?
Yes. But you could end up paying more, like Carol Olson, seen in police body cam footage from December.
Kind of makes you second guess yourself, because I'm like, I know I parked it.
Right.
She returned to an empty parking spot several days after leaving her truck in this hotel lot for a flight to California.
Took the grandkids to Disneyland.
Oh my gosh.
Her truck was one of hundreds of vehicles stolen or prowled on the 2-mile strip outside the airport around International Boulevard. King County Sheriff's data show 474 such incidents in the last year alone at SeaTac Park and Fly and hotel lots.
What time did you notice the vehicle?
About 7:45.
Okay.
It turned out criminals swiped Carol's truck, used it for crimes like mail theft, and dumped it even before she flew home and reported it stolen.
Busted that window.
Just drilled out just this part right here.
Nearly $15,000 in repairs later,
this whole thing was damaged.
She's upset to learn she's among hundreds of victims.
Something needs to be done. That's a huge number, in my opinion.
Using public records, including hundreds of police reports, the King 5 investigators identified the SeaTac businesses with the top numbers of thefts and prowls last year. At number 3, the SeaTac Doubletree had 45 vehicle crimes reported, including 24 cars stolen. This Ramada Inn on International Boulevard saw 58 vehicle crimes, including 21 cars stolen. And topping the list, the SeaTac Marriott, with 94 reported vehicle crimes, including 27 cars driven off the lot.
The one security guard said that this happens all the time. This is like a every other night occurrence.
Piper Log was surprised when her truck was stolen from the Marriott's lot. She saw cameras, a security patrol, and gates.
Because I was like, hey, you have to have a ticket to get in, and you have to have a ticket to get out.
She was told car thieves often tailgate behind a paying car to get through those gates.
We go to leave, and they said that they needed to charge me for parking. And I was like, really? My car just got stolen off of your parking lot, and I got charged for parking.
See? Yeah. See your ignition, and then they went in there, and just because they couldn't get it, they screwed it all up in there.
So it was your truck that was stolen?
My car, yeah.
So we don't know how long the car's been gone.
Go back out to get my truck. Yeah, it's not there.
Cars stolen or prowled at the Marriott. It is a routine call for SeaTac police.
This back lot gets hit every other night. Yeah, it happens. It's been happening a lot.
Also common, anger.
My windshield was busted out.
From the many victims.
They didn't offer to do anything or, help in any way, really. So that was a little maddening. It was just all shattered. It was spiderweb shattered.
For Christiana Clinton, the break-in almost sent her back into the world of homelessness that she'd just escaped.
This window cost me almost $400. The window was a month's worth of groceries for us.
Looks like a white man with a dog.
In addition to the harm to victims, police say these stolen cars are often used to commit more serious crimes. In this report from the Marriott, a black Glock 19 handgun was among the loot for a car prowler. In a thief's mind, airport lots are a bonanza of vehicles that are left parked for a long time. The airport's own parking garage isn't necessarily a better alternative. Video shows cars being prowled. Here's a thief punching a door lock. Here's an attempted carjacking of a taxi driver. And gates don't stop the thieves at the exits as they piggyback behind other cars to get out. It's all added up to a record 359 thefts and prowls at SeaTac's garage in the last year.
We've got cameras that go around the whole of the exterior lot and our interior lot as well.
It doesn't have to be that way, as Ava Musau showed us. The Motel 6 along 188th that she manages has invested in new security equipment and a new attitude among staff.
And everybody just kind of does their due diligence to pay attention to what kind of vehicles are coming in. Everybody gets parking passes. If something seems out of place, we are pretty quick with it too, because it's a business.
Records show calls to police for area checks and other suspicious behavior. 300 calls in all last year. With 5 thefts or prowls in their 88-spot parking lot, this motel had fewer vehicle crimes than most others.
I'm super, super proud of that. It shows that the hard work does pay off.
But that Motel 6 is a notable exception. Just ask any SeaTac police officer.
I will tell you this here in SeaTac. This is, I think, the 8th or 9th one this morning. Okay. This is a every night, every day of the week, every motel thing.
I left several messages with the Marriott's general manager and owner, Spire Hospitality. No response. Same for the DoubleTree, and Ramada's manager refused comment. So the biggest tip from experts is to make your car an unattractive target for thieves. Secure with nothing left inside, not even a garage door opener.
Now to a King 5 exclusive interview with two passengers on board the Alaska Airlines 737 MAX during the January mid-air blowout. They told King 5 they thought they were going to die and will never trust the Boeing company again. Shandy Brewer described the seconds after the door plug blew out at 16,000 feet in the air.
And then making eye contact with other passengers as well was like, I can see the fear in their face. I can see the worry in their face. Like, nobody knows what's going on.
Andrew Chur was also on that flight. In those frantic moments after the blowout, Andrew started texting loved ones. He wrote, "If anything happens to me, I love you."
In the case that these were my last words to my friends and family, like, wanted to get that out there, not have them not wonder about what my last thoughts were, or, what happened to me.
The NTSB determined Boeing delivered the aircraft to Alaska Airlines with 4 bolts missing. The agency also says Alaska restricted the plane from flying over water because a warning light had gone off 3 times, indicating pressurization problems. Both Boeing and Alaska have been the subject of multiple investigations and lawsuits since the blowout. Right now, child welfare advocates are working to overturn a state law that makes it harder for CPS to remove children from their homes.
Dozens of advocates say this law is killing children. Kristen Goodwillie reveals the cost of keeping families together.
How many of you believe that this law is actually killing babies?
I do.
5 foster moms from Western Washington who all have a history of caring for babies born addicted to fentanyl came to King 5 with a message.
There's a big difference between reunification and safe reunification.
And right now, are babies and toddlers safe? No.
No.
A law aimed at keeping kids out of foster care and with parents is failing.
Do you think this is the biggest safety crisis for children in the system? I do.
I do.
This is House Bill 1227.
In 2021, a state law was passed that makes it easier for parents involved with CPS to keep custody of their children. Representative Lillian Ortiz-Self of Mukilteo spelled out on her website why she sponsored the bill.
It's time that we start looking at the damage and the harm that we're doing, the irrevocable damage and harm that happens when we remove a child from their family.
Prior to the new law, children could be removed from parents and put into foster care when there was evidence of physical harm from abuse or neglect. The new Keeping Families Together Act goes a step further. To remove a child, there must be evidence of imminent physical harm and substance abuse. Even when babies are born affected by highly toxic fentanyl, it isn't enough to take a child away.
We're just setting everyone up for failure and loss and heartbreak.
I'll be honest, I'm angry. I'm angry that anybody thinks it would be okay to hand over a young child to somebody under the influence of a drug that we have all recognized as lethal.
Since the bill passed, the number of children going into foster care has plummeted. Since 2021, down 28%. But look at what happened as more kids were reunified with their families. Deaths and near deaths of children went up by 114%. State records show fentanyl was a major contributor to the increase, with the majority of victims babies and toddlers.
The exact system that was designed to protect these children is traumatizing them further.
And killing them.
And putting them at great risk, yeah.
So how could a baby possibly overdose on fentanyl? They're ingesting it. Police are finding that babies are picking up the pills that look like Skittles and putting them in their mouths. They're also getting their hands on foil or the straws that are used to smoke the fentanyl. And it doesn't take much. The equivalent to a couple grains of salt is enough to kill someone.
It's a reality that we face every day with every child, and it's heartbreaking. It rips at your soul.
It's really scary. Like when I know that the parents are in active use and, kids are going there.
This is one of the victims. 3-year-old Prince of Tacoma was in foster care since he was a baby. Last year, CPS reunified him with his mother. 6 months later, he was dead. His mother is accused of torturing Prince and beating him to death.
It's heartbreaking when you see over and over again that you can't get these kids and their parents back together safely, and how broken that is.
Even the lawmakers realized the Keeping Families Together Act may have gone too far.
This is a unique threat that we've never experienced before.
After hearing about the increase in child deaths, a Senate committee held a public meeting to see what they could do about it. A pediatrician from Olympia said the law needs to be changed.
These toddlers are showing up in our emergency rooms unresponsive, needing full life support, and we don't know why until we figure out that it's fentanyl. These children are dying.
This is about the children of Washington being protected from adults who are not protecting them.
A month after that hearing, lawmakers were emotional on the House floor, debating whether or not to change the law.
If your child was in a burning building, would you wait until the flames devoured it?
There's days when you can't presume there's good parents. And when these kids are dying of fentanyl, we've got to step in.
How many more children have to die? We need to change this. You and I need to change this.
After all that, lawmakers did change the law. Now fentanyl must be considered something that puts a child in immediate harm's way. But these foster moms say in practice, it's not enough.
So if nothing happens with this law, what is going to happen?
Kids are going to keep dying, and we're going to see more and more kids die.
So investigator Kristen Goodwillie is here now. I mean, this is literally life and death stuff.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, a lawmaker from Mason County is tracking these child deaths and says he plans to drop a bill this legislative session that would change the current bill.
And what is happening on the ground? I mean, you think about the people, the social workers that go into these homes, see these risks right in front of them. What do they think?
And that's exactly it, is social workers tell me they do see these risks. They feel like they can't protect the children. And ultimately it comes down to the courts. The court decides whether to remove a child or not. And ultimately they say their hands are tied, and they are also advocating for a change in this bill.
Okay, thanks a lot, Kristen.
I feel they still took some of my freedom from me.
Still ahead, healthcare concerns in our state's jails. The King 5 investigators uncover a pattern of unqualified medical staff putting patients at risk.
And reaction from passengers aboard the state ferry that crashed into the West Seattle dock.
They failed their job. And they put my life in danger, my wife's life in danger, and the lives of my friends.
The King 5 investigators reveal the captain's troubled work history going back years. The King 5 investigators reveal Washington inmates with serious health problems are being treated by medical professionals who aren't legally qualified to care for them.
As Taylor Mafendereski found, in jails across the state, inmates and their families say it's led to lifelong injuries and unnecessary deaths.
They're flat bottom.
Javier Tapia of Tacoma says after getting out of prison 3 years ago, he cleaned up his act.
I've been doing pretty good.
After landing a stable job, he quickly got a promotion, and with the support of his family.
I got over 6 years of being clean and sober.
But for everything going well in his life as a free man,
I feel they still took some of my freedom from me, leaving me in this state. Being an amputee now, it's challenging to keep going.
In 2018, after stealing a car, Tapia went into the Pierce County Jail. During his 5-month stay, he says, bungled medical care left him with only one leg after a life-threatening infection when undiagnosed.
So I was just mistreated, like it shouldn't have happened to me and it shouldn't happen to anybody else.
Inmates are the only group of people in the country with the constitutional right to adequate health care. But the King 5 investigators found in multiple jails across Washington, they're being treated by unqualified medical staff.
Within Washington, I've seen it dozens of times.
According to government, medical, and federal court records, the practice has led to lifelong injuries and unnecessary deaths.
It's inappropriate because it's dangerous.
Dr. Mark Stern is the former top doctor for the state's prison system. Now he's a nationally renowned consultant helping Washington jails.
The patients that we see in our jails are the sickest patients in our community, the most complicated patients. It requires an analysis and evaluation by the person with the highest level of skill and training, a physician or a mid-level practitioner.
In multiple Washington jails, the company at the center of the controversy is a for-profit Alabama-based contractor, NAFCare. 7 county jails in the state are paying the company millions to run their medical units, including Pierce County, where Tapia's medical woes began. We found NAFCare has a history of allowing licensed practical nurses, LPNs, to make pivotal medical decisions by themselves, even though they don't have the training.
They're not qualified to do it. We run a high risk that they're going to come to the wrong conclusion, that they're going to miss something, and as a result, a patient could get sicker or die.
While registered nurses, RNs, have at least 4 years of schooling, LPNs have 1 to 2 years. State law mandates LPNs are to be directed and assist people above them. They are not to have an independent role.
The LPNs have a lot of independence here.
But in recruitment videos on NAFCare's website, the company seems to brag about how its LPNs work alone.
As an LPN, we get to do a variety of things like that we may typically not do.
It's illegal, it's unsafe, and we would not tolerate it if that's the care that we got when we went to our doctor's office.
NAFCare declined an interview, but in a statement, the company told us they're not breaking the law. Staff are required to stay within the scope of their medical licenses, and their staffing approach exceeds requirements to support the health of inmates.
I felt uncomfortable from day one.
Bridget Stixrud is a former NAFCare employee who worked for 3 years as a registered nurse at the Pierce County Jail.
There weren't a lot of checks and balances. The LPNs had to do work that an RN probably should be doing.
She says the company pressured LPNs to do daily assessments of patients with complex problems, and sometimes they served as gatekeepers, deciding which inmates were sick enough to see a doctor.
And so it felt unsafe in that way.
She says NAFCare was trying to save a buck.
And it made me feel like there were corners being cut because LPNs are cheaper.
And in federal lawsuits across the country, NAFCare has repeatedly been accused of the same thing, putting profits over people.
It was morally distressing. That's how I felt there, that people weren't getting the care that they needed.
Tapia's medical crisis happened at the same jail where Stixrud saw problems. As jail staff documented, his health was decompensating. Instead of sending a doctor, they sent an LPN who decided there wasn't any medical concern.
That's just a perfect example of like things getting missed because the right person wasn't assessing them.
Medical records show by the time a jail doctor weighed in, it was too late.
I had to do the surgery. If they didn't, it was life-threatening. How could this happen?
We found documented problems with NAFCare's practices, not just in Pierce County, but across the state. In Kitsap County, a 2022 jail audit raised concerns about LPNs making inmate medical decisions. In Spokane, a jury levied a $27 million verdict against NAFCare in a wrongful death lawsuit. And here at the Lewis County Jail, where Matthew Potter died in 2022 from a heart attack, a fatality review found if a more qualified provider would have treated him, Matthew's life may have been saved. An independent doctor advised instead of LPNs, Lewis County hire only more experienced providers. But NAFCare decided not to take action, writing they had no plans to change medical procedures.
That's what upsets me.
For Matthew's brother, Lucas Potter, it came as a shock.
They think they did everything right, and they have no plan of changing it.
As for Javier Tapia, he's suing Pierce County and NAFCare in federal court.
I just want the right people to be accountable for what happened to me.
Pierce County and NAFCare deny the allegations in the lawsuit. Court records show a NAFCare leader applauded the jail's medical team, writing that while Tapia is mad about losing his leg, they did everything right, and he's lucky and alive thanks to them.
They saved my life, but it shouldn't have to go to that extent, and they get recognition for what a great job they did when they lacked diagnosing me.
For people who are struggling in jail like Tapia did, there are few places to turn. Washington law lacks statewide jail standards and oversight measures, and data shows inmates may be paying the price. The latest federal records from 2019 show Washington has the 4th highest death rate of local jail inmates in the entire country. At least 26 states have statewide bodies that oversee local jail conditions, and a nationally recognized corrections expert we spoke to recommends the same for Washington.
A lot of sheriffs feel like this is their domain and they don't want some outsiders coming in. But in fact, every public institution needs to be answerable to an outside body.
Last year, a bill that would have created additional oversight failed. But in 2025, we expect to see another legislative push in Olympia for statewide changes.
This year, the King 5 investigators revealed for the first time in history, a government agency has forced King County's biggest landfill to test for arsenic in the air. Since then, we uncovered a county report showing a section of the Cedar Hills Regional Landfill could be releasing arsenic at levels that are unsafe to breathe. And now, the community is looking for answers. For more than 30 years, Leslie Morgan has lived in Renton right by the landfill. She and neighbors have filed hundreds of complaints about odors from the landfill. But now she's more alarmed than ever about potential exposure to the highly toxic chemical that she can't smell.
You feel this really heavy weight. I have my family in this community. Are they safe?
In its initial report to the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency, the county found arsenic levels around most of Cedar Hills are well below the safe breathing limits. But their modeling predicted elevated levels of arsenic in the southwest end of Cedar Hills. The Clean Air Agency says it's still reviewing King County's test results to decide on next steps.
I would hope that they would require more thorough investigation into the surrounding communities. They have a lot of work to do to gain our trust.
It was already a system that was in trouble, and this just exacerbated all of the challenge that we have.
Another blow to the Washington State ferry system. The Cathlamet missed thousands of sailings after crashing into a West Seattle dock in 2022. Still ahead, with the captain found to be at fault, a King 5 investigation reveals there were warning signs leading up to the crash.
What was the shortest time you had to eat lunch?
I think that might have been 8 minutes and 21 seconds.
Do you want mashed potatoes and gravy?
Kids in Washington State schools may be struggling, not because of tests or homework, but lunchtime. Some may be going hungry because of shrinking lunch periods. The King 5 investigators reveal the captain who caused the crash of a ferry in West Seattle 2.5 years ago had a history of on-the-job problems before the multi-million-dollar collision.
Ferry leaders formally reprimanded the captain for violations including sleeping during sailings, falsifying records, and lying to his superiors. Yet he was allowed to keep his job anyway.
It's remarkable what, with those couple of minutes of that guy being irresponsible, did to my life.
Roberta Christensen of Vashon Island says commuting will never be the same after the crash of the ferry Cathlamet.
Having been through that crash, suddenly now you're on pins and needles, and I'm terrified. I'm like, what's out there? What's going on? What did we hit? Why are we going so slow?
In July of 2022, Roberta rushed out of her car to take this video seconds after the boat ran into what's called a dolphin at full speed. The dolphin's supposed to guide ferries into the Fauntleroy dock in West Seattle, but this time it ripped a massive hole into the front of the ferry.
I've never seen anything like it.
Roberta and her wife Tara saw the whole thing happen.
The opening in the ferry was like a giant movie screen. So I thought we were going to die.
State and NTSB investigations found nothing wrong with the boat. The crash was the captain's fault. It was a fluke from what they called sleep debt or sleep deprivation. They found Captain Dave Cole, a 37-year State Ferries employee, fell asleep at the wheel. But the King 5 investigators have found the crash may not have been such a fluke. After all, Captain Dave Cole had a history of documented work problems in the months and years leading up to the crash.
When I heard the name, it didn't surprise me.
Pete Williams is a former ferries manager. Before he retired in 2015, he says management was aware something was off.
It was obvious that something was going on with Captain Cole, and they missed the opportunity to really sit down and take a look at it and say, what do we need to do here?
The first documented sign of trouble came in 2018. The captain got an oral reprimand for being late to work. It forced the cancellation of a round trip. That's a big deal when hundreds of passengers are depending on you. 2 years later, he was late again. But this time records show he lied about it. Cole wrote in a logbook and told dispatchers he was on the boat sailing across Puget Sound when in fact he wasn't. A chief mate who wasn't qualified to sail alone without Coast Guard approval was at the helm.
They failed their job, and they put my life in danger, my wife's life in danger, and the lives of my friends.
An internal review found Cole violated 6 codes of conduct, including neglecting his duties, falsification of documents, and abandoning his worksite. We found after all that, nothing happened. No reprimand, no suspension, no disciplinary measures whatsoever. What's your reaction to that, Roberta?
I'm pissed. I'm angry.
More red flags rolled in. The same year Captain Cole lied about being on a boat, he was late 2 more times. Manager Jay Mooney gave him a written reprimand.
Washington State ferry.
The next year, in 2021, he got a 3-day suspension for being late again. This time, nearly 3 hours late, forcing the cancellation of 3 trips. Rides passengers rely on for things like getting to school, medical appointments, and work.
I'm lucky I didn't lose my job that day, being stuck on the island for 3 boats. Can't make a meeting. Can't keep the job.
Why wasn't more done sooner?
Former ferries manager Pete Williams says there's a lack of accountability culture in the ferry system.
That's one of the reasons that I decided to retire, was because I saw the culture changing where if you wanted to hold somebody accountable, really hold them accountable, it was very difficult.
Evidence shows just how scary the Kathlamet crash was. In this grainy security video, you see the deck crumbling from the collision. A passenger standing on the deck has to run to safety. And this photo shows wreckage from the crash punched right into a parked car. The NTSB found it just missed the occupant on the driver's side.
I'm very disappointed. We put people's lives at jeopardy.
Senator Curtis King is ranking member of the state's Joint Transportation Committee. Repairing the Kathlamet and the Dolphin cost the state nearly $7 million. The boat was out of service for more than 8 months, and it missed an estimated 10,000 sailings.
It was already a system that was in trouble, and this just exacerbated all of the challenges that we have. And then we got to look at the cost that, the citizens of the state of Washington get to bear that cost.
The most ominous warning of all came in early 2022. Ferry managers received an anonymous note, and we have a copy of it. It reads, "I think someone should get some help for Captain Dave Cole. Some of us crew members don't feel safe." That prompted management to show up unannounced on the Kathlamet for what they called a welfare check on the captain. But they say they didn't find anything alarming.
Those cars.
Whoever wrote that anonymous note was right. 5 months later, the Kathlamet crash endangered everyone on the boat and the dock.
I think we got lucky. I think we got lucky that there wasn't more damage, that there wasn't more injury.
Ferry writers Roberta and Tara say with lapses in accountability, the crash wasn't the fault of one captain, but the entire ferry system.
Dave Cole didn't crash a boat. Washington State Ferries crashed a boat. Dave Cole just happened to be the captain.
Captain Cole's attorney tells us the captain feels awful about the crash and that he should be remembered by his thousands of safe sailings. The ferry system said they've made changes to make sure a crash like this doesn't happen again.
Homeowners in Washington state are paying the price for wildfires even before they ignite.
Insurance companies are increasingly dropping residents from their homeowners insurance policies, leaving them struggling to find coverage.
I think this area right here.
One of them is Reggie Egger. He spent decades and tens of thousands of dollars trying to protect his home from wildfires, but he's been dropped by his insurance company twice. He finally got new coverage, but his premium tripled. And he's not the only one struggling. The Washington State Office of the Insurance Commissioner has received more wildfire-related policy complaints in the first half of this year than the last 2 years combined.
I realize that there's some companies out there that don't give a squat about their clients.
I don't think anyone's asking for people to feel sorry for insurance companies, but it is important for people to understand what's happening in the insurance industry.
Industry advocates say insurance companies are doing their due diligence and assessing wildfire risk with things like satellite images, climate change protections, and wildfire history. But critics argue that system is far from transparent.
Kristen Goodwillie reported on the coverage crisis in a 4-part series. Text the word coverage to 206-448-4545 and we'll send you all of her reporting so far.
Those kids at the end of the lunch line, we often see they have 5 minutes or less to eat lunch.
You're welcome.
We're going back to school to check on your kids while they're eating lunch. Still ahead, our investigation reveals why they may be rushing just to finish their only meal during the school day.
Life-changing news for 2 veterans featured in a King 5 investigation.
Getting kicked out kind of ruined that sense of pride. And now having it back it's everything.
Years after exposing how the Army punished the struggling soldiers, a military ruling is finally honoring their service. Nobody can learn on an empty stomach, especially when it comes to children.
But a King 5 investigation reveals students in many school districts may be getting shorted on their lunch. This is the school lunch crunch. At this Everett home, the school day is over. And an after-school routine begins for mom, Amber Ortega.
Do you already have a snack?
It's not homework or TV time. Every day after school, she needs to feed her hungry kids.
How was lunch?
I had to eat my pizza really fast at school.
6th grader Rose, who is 11,
But I'm mostly used to it.
and her 8-year-old sister, Mabel.
You only had time to eat your sandwich? What else did you have that you wanted to eat?
Applesauce.
Don't have time to finish their lunches at school, according to mom.
When my kids come home and complain about not being able to finish their lunch, it usually always just boils down to not having enough time.
It isn't just one family. On an Everett School's Facebook page, parents called the short lunch hours ridiculous, frustrating, and chaos and bananas. Do you get enough time to eat your lunch?
Not really. I usually get like 5, 6, or 10 minutes.
Mabel has to stand in line, eat her food, and clean up during a 20-minute lunch period. Experts say that's not long enough.
And what our research shows is that when kids have 20-minute lunch periods, they eat significantly less of their lunch on average compared with kids that have longer lunch periods.
Dr. Juliana Cohen is a nutrition researcher and Harvard professor who studies school lunch times. Her team visits lunchrooms and uses stopwatches to calculate seat time.
They're there measuring how much time do kids actually have to eat their lunch. When kids have longer lunch periods, they go back to the classroom more refreshed and more able to learn.
I have a stopwatch here, Rose. I gave this to you a couple weeks ago. And what did you do with it?
Once I sat down at lunch at school, I would start the stopwatch.
With that stopwatch ticking, Rose measured her seat time at Evergreen Middle School, where the lunch period for her 6th grade class is only 15 minutes long.
And then stop it whenever a teacher said 2-minute warning for cleaning up. So it would show how long I got to sit and eat lunch.
What was the shortest time you had to eat lunch?
I think that might have been 8 minutes and 21 seconds.
8 minutes and 21 seconds to eat lunch? Was that long enough?
No.
Over 2 weeks, Rose's seat time at lunch averaged 10 minutes and 22 seconds a day.
I was a little bit surprised of how short it was.
We'd be welcome to hire her as part of our research team. Sounds like she's an expert as well.
Do you want mashed potatoes and gravy?
Dr. Cohen encourages schools to push their seat time to a minimum of 25 minutes, which usually means a 30-minute lunch period. But we uncovered how rare that is. The King 5 investigators surveyed 31 school districts in Western Washington. Schools, even in the same district, have varying lengths of lunchtime. We recorded the shortest. Schools in 5 districts have at least 25 to 30-minute lunches. 5 other school districts, including Kent and Tacoma, didn't respond to our repeated requests. 19 school districts have lunches as short as 20 minutes, mostly in elementary schools. And Stanwood, Camano, and Everett have the shortest, only 15-minute lunches in some schools.
Our 6th grade class here at Gateway this year is bigger than it has been.
Matt Bennett is principal at Gateway Middle in Everett, where the 6th grade class is so large, the lunch period is split into 2 15-minute sessions.
So half the students will have free time while half the students eat, and then they switch.
Do you think kids have enough time to eat in your school?
I do. We still manage to get through all of our students and they have ample time to buy their food and eat their food before that free time.
How do you respond to that?
Especially with 20-minute lunch periods, those kids at the end of the lunch line, we often see they have 5 minutes or less to eat lunch.
You're welcome.
Administrators in some districts admit to us they're now having a harder time scheduling lunches, especially in elementary schools, where a new state rule requires 30 minutes of recess a day. Lunch is the one period administrators can bend to fit schedules.
There's always food getting thrown away and wasted.
There's one other thing that Rose tracked for us: the food that kids didn't have time to eat. Things like strawberries, grapes, apple slices.
I would mostly see a lot of fruits or vegetables. Mostly the things that people won't want to eat as much.
All the nutritious food got thrown out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That means carefully designed and costly healthy school lunch programs are getting trashed. The State Office of Public Instruction knows this is a problem and is proposing a minimum lunchtime requirement in Washington, but they do expect pushback from districts.
Chris, after this story first aired, I can't believe how many parents you heard from.
Hundreds.
I mean,
yeah.
they were just calling, texting, everything.
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to weigh in on how it moves forward?
They absolutely will get their chance. The state superintendent's office has scheduled a virtual public hearing for January 14th. Members of the public can register to view that hearing and comment, and we'll be following that on King 5. So, of course, everybody should check back with us after that hearing.
I think that is one of the best outcomes, the best outcome that can happen for everyone.
A King 5 investigation with life-changing results. Still ahead, hundreds of mentally ill inmates once stuck behind bars are now receiving treatment. How the state made it happen so fast.
And after a crash with a Washington State Patrol trooper, a King 5 investigation leads to a settlement for the truck driver falsely accused of causing the crash. And that settlement didn't just entail money.
The money part of it is not, I mean, it's great, but it's not everything.
The King 5 investigators have decades of experience holding those in power accountable.
And now we show you how that work is changing lives. First, after a years-long King 5 investigation, the state is making major progress in addressing a huge mental health crisis.
Our series, Mentally Ill Waiting in Jail, exposed patients were stuck behind bars for months at a time without trial or treatment. One example, a high-profile case, Alexander J. He was accused of assaulting a woman at a Seattle light rail station. Then he waited at the King County Jail for nearly a year before he was moved to a state hospital. In 2022, Jay was one of about 500 mentally ill inmates in Washington holed up in local jails. Now, that number's down to 15 people, and wait times for a bed have gone from 4 or 5 months to about 5 days.
These are the shortest wait times I've ever seen in 9 years in this position, probably even longer than that. And the other positive is we're showing that we're able to maintain this.
So you're saying it's not a fluke?
It's not a one-off, correct.
The progress is the result of the state remodeling and staffing an old hospital. That's Olympic Heritage in Tukwila. In October, the state moved 70 patients to that facility, freeing up beds for people waiting in jail. Another treatment facility is under construction in Vancouver. It will have 48 beds and should open next year. After a King 5 investigation exposed the Army turned its back on some of the most vulnerable soldiers with PTSD, 2 veterans who served in Washington have new hope.
In our series, No Thank You for Your Service, we introduce you to Jeff Smith, who did 3 combat tours in Afghanistan. Smith suffered from severe post-traumatic stress disorder and struggled with alcohol abuse. But instead of getting him help, he was kicked out of the military in 2019 with an other than honorable discharge. Nearly 3 years after asking for an upgrade, last fall, Smith got life-changing results. The military voted unanimously to give him full honors, writing that his PTSD outweighed his alcohol-related misconduct.
Your story did have an impact. What you did actually meant something, and it worked. It's pretty mind-blowing as far as the effect that it had.
Another veteran we introduced you to, Cord Ball, was also diagnosed with severe PTSD after serving in Afghanistan. An Army official kicked him out of the military with an other than honorable discharge because he smoked marijuana. But that recently changed too, to an honorable discharge. And the State Patrol has reached a $1.3 million settlement with a commercial truck driver from Snohomish. Sean Fouch was on his routine overnight run in August of 2022 when his big rig collided with a State Patrol cruiser. Video from Fouch's cab showed the State Patrol vehicle cross several lanes of traffic into the path of his truck. But Fouch was the one that was cited with negligent driving.
King 5 News broke the story and made them stop and go, oh, wait, no, there's people looking at this. Maybe we should, take a step back.
The State Patrol's internal investigation pinned most of the blame on Veteran Sergeant T.J. Johnson, who retired instead of facing punishment. Johnson's lieutenant was also issued a reprimand for improper oversight of the case. The rookie trooper, Firwat Apposite, would later be admonished for his poor attempt to slow down traffic because of a hazard ahead. And Chief John Batiste offered Fouch his sincerest apologies for the harm to your reputation and good standing as a professional driver. Fouch hasn't yet decided if he'll be back behind the wheel of a big rig or try his hand at something else.
Some of these investigations take years, and King 5 is committed to seeing them through.
If you have a story you think we should look into, send us a tip. You can email us at investigators@king5.com. We remain dedicated to holding leadership accountable and to getting results.
For Taylor Meal-Fendereski, Susanna Frame, and Kristen Goodwillie, I'm Chris Ingalls. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of King 5 News. And you can see all of our stories and the Investigators Monthly Spotlight on our streaming app, King 5 Plus.